21-month-old Lonzie Barton was reported missing during a car theft in 2015. The call was made by William Rueben Ebron Jr., the boyfriend of Lonna Barton, Lonzie's mother. Evidence from surveillance videos quickly caused the story to unravel, while the boy remained missing. Let's get into it.
All right. First thing I want to show you, and I don't think I'll even have to go through this, but just to make you understand, what do you recognize that pink highlight is?
Cell phone number.
Right. Whose is that?
It's mine.
Right. This is the date, 7/25/15. That's the very first day that he went over there to jail. Okay. Then obviously that's all the same day. So, in case you didn't believe that he has not got the loyalty to you that you think he does, in case, sometimes I know it's easier to prove something to somebody if they see it or hear it than it is to just tell them. Okay. So, you see what this highlight is? Do you recognize that number?
Not right off.
Okay, that's number.
Okay.
So these are all of his calls to her. Okay. Different days, 8-2. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. 8-3, 8-3, 8-3, 8-4. I'm looking at it upside down, so if I say something wrong, just correct me. 8-4. Okay. Here again, 8-6, 8-8. You can see.
He's been trying to call her from jail.
Right. Well, yes, and there's been conversations as well. Okay. Here's you. Here's your number again. That's when it was blocked. That was the day after you visited him on 8/10. That's when it was blocked. Okay, so obviously he couldn't. He tried to call you, but he couldn't. What I'm trying to show you the comparison is who you think he's clearly reaching out to.
Her.
Yeah. So I don't want to. I'm not trying to throw that in your face.
No.
Okay. I want you to have a feeling that it's pretty clear we listen and do everything we have to do to prove this case. And if part of it is getting you to understand we are not the ones trying to BS you, I believe, and you call him baby man.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the purposes of this, is it okay if we call him baby man? Is that going to upset you?
No.
Okay. So you talked about a green shirt. That looks teal to me, but I pulled out everything that I could.
He has a green shirt.
Okay.
But it has no sleeves on it.
Okay.
But it has a truck on it also.
Okay. So this is not the one he was in the night before you left. And to clarify, when you left for work, he had some sort of green shirt on, but it's not this one.
Not a tank top, but just a sleeveless shirt.
Okay, so that's definitely not it. Now that kind of looks. It's a Ninja Turtle.
That's his shirt.
Okay, I know it's his shirt. Is it the one that he was in when you left that night? To your knowledge,
this was a neon green shirt.
Neon green. Okay.
Yeah, like a
bright green. Okay.
Like a highlighter.
Well, kinda.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then clearly not this one. But
that's
do you reckon not his? Okay, let me write that on there. Do you recognize that shirt? Is that maybe somebody else's kids?
Maybe it could be one of the kids. They have I think he's 6, a 6-year-old. So maybe Trey's.
Not.
No.
Okay. How about this one?
That's not his either.
Okay. And how
That
about this
is
one?
his.
That is.
This is my mom bought him this shirt.
All right. But that's not the sleeveless one he was in. Okay. The stains on that, are those stains that have been there?
Yeah, SpaghettiOs.
Okay. It's kind of what it looked like, is raviolis or SpaghettiOs.
Is that ripped? Is it torn?
I think it's just the way that it's. I think it's just the way that it's folded. To be honest,
I was going to say because it wasn't ripped or anything.
I think that's just the way that it's folded. To be honest, but if it is, that had nothing to do with this. Now we may go through these a little slower. What do you recognize this as?
That's Ruben's.
Okay. Do you recognize it from that night or any other time? Think about when you're there, you show up.
I'm trying to think.
Do you remember what he had on?
When I got there?
Yeah, when you got to the apartment complex.
I know he had a white shirt on and khaki shorts.
Okay. Does this look like the shirt?
This looks like... Could have been. I think so, maybe.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, they've turned this inside out for him. Okay. Now, how about this?
That's his.
I know it's like a generic,
Ruben.
Right. You see what it's on? You see what this is? It's like laid on a brown piece of paper, and it's got a measuring stick. Opposite of what you see these, okay? That's just laid on a little brown piece of paper so they can put his clothes out. They're measuring this up. They're measuring it up for a reason.
Okay.
Is there anything that you notice about that shirt? Look at it.
Maybe down in here, through here.
Right.
Stain blood. To me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is.
Do you remember him being hurt in any way? Was he bleeding in any way?
Not when I left him.
Okay.
Not when I got out the car to go to work, he wasn't.
Okay.
And while we're talking about the blood right now, was there? I can see I can see where you're upset. Do you want to take a break a second? Okay. Let me turn that over. All right. Listen to me. Was there ever any time that had a significant injury where he was bleeding a lot?
No, he had a little scratch on his leg,
Okay.
but that was from where he just had like a bug bite, it looked like, I guess, and he scratched it.
Okay.
So he did that to himself.
Was he bleeding at all that day?
Mm-mm.
And any of the little bite that you talked about down there is nothing more than a Band-Aid would have needed, even if that. Okay, so at any given time, was he bleeding a large amount? Not whatsoever. Okay. In the last week, can you remember any time where he would have taken a fall where he was busted open and mouth bleeding?
He didn't. He had a little mark right here on the bottom lip, but he was. We were in the kitchen. I was with him when that happened.
Okay, so you saw it.
Well, I gave him a popsicle because
Okay.
he was teething real bad and he bit his lip a little bit. So.
Okay.
But other than that, no, and it wasn't even. He didn't even bleed really. Right
Did any-
down his lip?
Did any of that blood get anywhere else other than the kitchen?
No, it didn't even get in the kitchen. I
Okay, wiped
used
it
a
up.
little napkin.
Okay.
It was nothing.
All right. This is, I want to show you and I'm looking at it upside down, so you'll have to excuse me if I go backwards. This purple line
Mm-hmm.
is basically a
The
route.
route that he took or something.
Right. I know there was some talk about whether or not you believe the validity of that video that we put out.
Well, I didn't say it being honest.
Okay. And this is part of the clarification for you, okay?
Mhm.
What I'm not allowed to do is make stuff up for you or him. I'm not allowed to make up evidence. I'm not allowed to tell you we found a bloody hammer and it belonged to the victim's blood is I'm not allowed to make stuff like that up, okay? So understand me when I'm telling you something, this is something we know we will prove in a court of law, okay? All right. So our video time of him leaving is when you look at the video, he goes out, watch him go out, and within enough minutes, he is, this house right here, there's a little pin right there.
Mm-hmm.
It says,
Sierra Madre.
right, Sierra Madre Drive South. Okay, the little pin. If you come out, and come around here, you're going to pass this house.
Mm-hmm.
And when you pass this house, you come up here to this Cespedes Road.
Mm-hmm.
And then the car was dropped off right there. Okay? So this house video, at the same time, within a couple minutes, 3 to be exact, from the time he comes out of here, sees the car. Now, no other cars are going by.
Right.
Sees that car go by. Then 3 minutes later, he comes running by. Enough time for him to get around here. Guess what? He comes walking back in the complex.
And he's on video there too.
right.
Okay.
Walking back in.
And he recognizes himself, and it's worse quality than the other video.
He actually says,
And he
"Yeah,
said,
I believe
"Yeah,
that's me."
Okay.
Yeah. So, what we're trying to tell you is,
He is at fault, obviously.
yeah.
Mhm.
What clearly we'd have to start with is I need you to understand the story of the car being stolen with the child in it is total horseshit.
Okay.
Okay? Do you understand that?
I do. I understand that.
All right. So with
So where was my baby when
he wasn't to the best of what we can say. He only brought this car over here.
It was an alibi. He was trying
he was never in it to begin with?
he was trying to stage an alibi and make it look like a fake abduction, and that someone else had taken.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why I drove that distance and ran it back, and I did it in faster time than he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm 59.
So he probably stopped a couple times. All that weed.
Yeah. But the time frame is right.
Okay. I believe you.
Yeah.
There is no.
You have no reason to lie to me.
I don't. Well, and of stuff like this, why would I?
Exactly.
So if we
Do you remember the clothes he was wearing?
She said,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
That night when you got home?
khaki shorts and a white
Do
shirt.
you remember the shoes he had on?
The DCs?
mm-hmm.
Same thing in the video.
Okay.
Can't mistake him.
Nope.
Okay.
The white DC label as he runs by.
Now, he was real cocky in jail when he was approached about this because he had only seen that first video from the apartment, and it was a terrible video, but he recognized himself.
Okay.
He didn't see this one when he was running his mouth. After he ran his mouth, then I think his family got attention. They got you on video.
Yeah. So, understanding this, it leads us to the fact that, number one, clearly, that car was not stolen,
And he put it.
and he put it there. Now, if there was, putting this out to you, if there was some bad accident that happened, whether it was intentional or not, would you, as a mother, get care for your child?
Immediately.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
There's no one else that had care of this child. Okay? Get out.
When you got out the car that day at work, was it car?
Yes, he was. I gave him a kiss.
Was he hurt in any way?
No, he was drinking his bottle. He had some red fruit punch in it that I'd made him right before we left.
Okay.
And I hate to bring you back to that particular time and all, but I know you went to work and you came back. When the kids go to sleep at night, when you have both of them or one, specifically baby man, where do you put them down to bed?
I normally let them fall asleep in the bed with me,
Okay.
and then once they fall asleep, I'll make them a pallet at
Okay.
the foot of the bed.
Okay.
And he didn't really like the pallet, so he took to the black bean bag
Yeah,
that's in
yeah,
the
yeah.
apartment.
Right.
So I put him a little pillow at the top of it, and he'd sleep with his Toy Story blanket on top of it.
The black one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you ever put him downstairs to sleep?
No, never.
Never.
No.
Never once made a pallet downstairs for him.
Yeah, to watch TV, like
Okay.
during the day while I'm up.
Up,
But
okay.
if we
And
go
listen,
to bed.
there's no big deal.
Well, no, I'm just
I'm
saying.
not trying to make
well, I
you.
mean, I'm just saying, but not at night. I wouldn't.
No, we're just saying that sometimes as
I
he
don't
laid
sleep.
out.
I don't sleep upstairs, and then him and my kids sleep downstairs.
Absolutely.
No, no,
That's
no.
not what I was implying.
No, we're just wondering if you
Yeah.
ever make a pallet downstairs for the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, likes to make the pallets, and they watch the TV downstairs sometimes.
How often do they watch TV downstairs?
We had actually just started letting them do that, like a week before all this happened.
Was they hurt in any way? No
Not at
cuts?
all.
Okay.
Not nothing.
How about the day that you made the shrimp Alfredo and then you went on to work? Was there a pallet downstairs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There had been.
Describe it to me.
Panda pillows.
Okay.
I believe different colored blanket.
Yeah,
You know which one I'm
a
talking about?
multicolored blanket.
Yeah, I mean like pastel colors, like browns,
Okay.
tans.
So not white. Okay. So for the big screen TV, there was not pillows and a white sheet before you left. Let's see what this looks like. Tell me what that looks like to you.
Well, for one, that wasn't even there when I left. That was on top of the containers that are sitting beside this couch right here. That sits right here.
Mm-hmm.
That stroller always stays on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's Ruben's shirt,
Okay.
but it wasn't laid like that.
Okay.
It was spread out.
How about
Those
this?
are the pillows.
Okay. What's this right here?
That's a white sheet.
Right. So my question to you is, when you left home,
It wasn't on the floor.
it wasn't in the floor.
You
A
positive?
little bit closer, just to make sure that you see it well enough. There is no describing it. It is a white sheet.
Yeah, I didn't put it there though.
Okay.
That's not the palette that I made for him.
What does that look like?
What?
This is this. Okay. This is this. Blown up. Okay. dried a few days later. So it's a little bit lighter.
So this is after that died?
This right here is how we found your house.
Mm-hmm.
When we examined this sheet, it's very easy to see. It looks like this.
Yeah.
It's still wet.
Right.
That's still wet.
Okay.
The sheet goes to our property room, and it's put in a place safely, securely, where it can dry. So as it dries a little bit lighter. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was at your house.
Mm-hmm.
These little things here, that's what's called a hemodent test. They swab it to determine if it's based on the test. It's not the God's awful gospel. We send those swabs to the lab, and we just can't guess whose blood it is.
This is simply to tell us whether or not it's
We believe it
human
is.
blood.
Right.
But this is, they come back as his.
Okay, I know, I got you. There's no need for you to see that. There is upstairs, okay? And you want a break a second. If you want one, you tell me, okay? You want a break?
I just want to get done.
Okay, alright, we'll get done. Tell me what you see about this. Whose room? That's y'all's room.
Yeah.
Okay. Does this look like what it normally looks like? Weights on the ground. There's a little stool, it looks like.
Yeah, I sat right there sometimes.
Okay. How about this stool? Is that something you recognize?
Yeah. Yeah, he said he was going to put it back in the shed because it was taking up too much room.
Okay. Now I know this is a picture of this direction. The foot of the bed would be down here.
Yeah.
Right.
These are the painted pillows that I use to make the pallet.
Okay. Where do you normally put the baby? Is it down here at the foot or over here?
He normally sleeps on this side and he sleeps right here.
Okay. But at the foot of the bed, right by the flooring area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever set up a pallet over here? Never. Never set up a pallet over there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is getting a little tighter. This is a little bit more zoomed in. Okay. I want you to pay attention to the floor area. You notice anything?
I see it stays.
Right. Here's a blow up. This is what we took this carpet. Okay?
Okay.
You know, sometimes I'm usually telling people, guess what? It's not like TV. It doesn't work like TV. This is going to work like TV. Do you see what that looks like? Yeah. That's the stool. You see what this is? Okay? I'm not going to make you stare at it, alright? We've sent a number of things to the lab. We don't just guess. We physically know.
What did he do to him?
Let's go back to the bruise on his head a minute. And if you have ever thought in your mind, today is the day to say whatever you possibly can remember. If anything was different, holy God, today's the day, okay? I'm not...
I know that he was very aggravated with the fact that she wouldn't let him see his kids.
Okay. She being...
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he had made a couple comments, you know, that he was holding, I remember him holding in the kitchen and he was crying.
Yeah.
Rueben was crying and I went to take the baby from him to go upstairs with him and give Rueben a minute, you know, and he's like, no, you know, it's kind of, he helps me feel closer to mine. He's like, just let me hold him. So I let him hold him, and then later on he just, I don't know, he kind of made me mad at first because he was like, you know, I don't mind, you know, watching your kids. They take my mind off of my own. And but I kind of got like that sense, like maybe well, I'm watching your kids, but no, you took that wrong. You know, he was like, I just miss my kids.
Right.
You know, so.
Now that you understand what we're dealing with, there's some questions I'm going to ask you. I'll ask you just to be honest, okay?
Yeah.
Did you strike in any way to cause him to bleed?
No.
Ever?
No.
Not one day in his life?
No.
Okay. The drugs that you had talked about Rueben kept in the dresser upstairs, to your knowledge, did have any way of knowing that those drugs were in there? Was
Not to my knowledge, no.
was commonly left unsupervised in that room to where he could have gotten into that drawer?
I never left him in the room. And even if I exited the room with my knowledge of that being there, I even would make him and come with me.
Okay.
Just because kids are kids.
Right, right. Did you do anything to allow the baby man to get into these drugs and become overdosed?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you aware of him getting into the drugs the day of this incident, the Thursday? Didn't come out chewing on pills or spilled pills on the floor?
No.
Okay. And so, by looking at what type of injury that we obviously are looking at, are you telling me that you had nothing to do with this?
Yes, that was exactly what I'm telling you.
Okay. And who else in the world had care and control of that boy that Thursday or Friday?
Rueben. That's it.
Okay. So let's go back to the bruise on the back of his head. In our last discussion, we determined that you were brought, the bruise was brought to your attention by Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that Thursday that you went to the dollar store and got the shrimp Alfredo.
Mm-hmm.
Describe the size of that bruise to me. 50-cent piece, quarter. Draw a circle. Draw a circle for me. Just think of how big it was.
This is the back of my ear.
And you're pointing at it. Point to me where it
Yeah, I
was.
could probably show you
Okay.
better.
Yeah.
Probably like
Right in
in here.
Okay. So right in there, and then draw the size you think that bruise was.
Probably felt like that. I mean, that's just like from long life.
Okay.
Probably about like that.
Okay. Now, you talked about it being bright in color. Like bright purple, bright blue.
Like a purplish.
Okay. So purplish. You also mentioned something on the side of his face.
Well, he had been pulling at his ear,
Okay.
and on that side,
Okay.
and it just looked like it was a little bit red, like maybe just right through
here?
just right through in
On
here.
his cheekbone.
Well, a little bit under it.
Under it? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit under his cheekbone.
Which side?
The same side that it was on. His
Which is what side?
Which, that's what he's asking.
Left.
Left side?
On his left side?
Left side.
Okay.
And I figured that it was like an ear infection, you know, because
Right.
they can cause your ear to swell.
How long did you notice that bruise?
I had just really noticed it. I didn't wake up. I didn't get up until like 5 o'clock.
That afternoon?
I got up for about an hour or so around lunchtime or whatever when Brittany took me to the doctor.
To the dollar store.
To the dollar store.
Right.
I didn't notice it. I didn't pay any attention. I noticed it looked a little bit reddish through here.
You sleep real hard?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Sleep with the door shut?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All the kids downstairs during that time?
Rueben normally doesn't wake me up. He normally takes the kids. If he leaves, he takes them with him, or he takes them downstairs and, you know, plays with them, whatever. No, not crying. 5 o'clock, I actually got woke up around 5 o'clock by a knock on the door, and he was getting served some kind of papers to do with
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Yeah. I remember
So
that.
that's how I got woke up, but, no, I mean, nothing. My kids weren't, like, acting out of the normal, really. I mean, he looked like he didn't really feel all that well, but
Yeah.
like I said, you know, I figured he was going to the doctor the next day with me,
Right.
and I just figured I was going to have him check him for, you know, maybe an ear infection. Plus, he was teething.
When you say you didn't feel that well, can you elaborate?
You know, just kind of like a little more tired than you, a little bit lazier. A little bit irritable, you know, whiny a little bit, a little more clingy, I guess you would say.
Okay.
But I just figured it was because he didn't felt good. Maybe cutting his
You know
teeth.
if he had a fever?
No, he didn't have fever.
I think you said it was like 99.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not
Oh,
what
yeah.
the doctor would say is a high-grade fever. So
You gave him the
I gave him a little bit
for
of
the ear or just pain reliever for the fever, all the above.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figured that would take care of, the slight fever. I didn't want it to go up any more than that.
Why'd you say it was his ear?
Well, because he was tugging at his ear.
Anything coming out?
You talked about some yellowish.
Well, it's wax. That's earwax. So, I mean, that's why I was taking him to the doctor the next
Was
day.
it fluid or wax?
It was kind of liquidy, but
Because I've never had wax, to be honest with you, I've never had wax come out my ear. I've done a Q-tip and got the
Right.
wax out.
right.
But wax doesn't usually drain out unless you have a serious
it wasn't,
problem.
well, I mean, no, it wasn't like draining.
And I
but-
said that wrong. Even if it's leaking out, there's generally something.
Yeah, well, I could see a little bit of, I could see like a little bit of like a yellowish color stuff right there. I figured that, I just take him, thought he had an ear infection. I just take him to the doctor with the next day and they could tell me what it was.
Those are just so, we talked about this before, but that's when you get a baby with a head injury. And we're not saying that, his head was split open, but when you have a bruise back here or anywhere on their head, like when your mama saw the stuff he had on his face when we believe there was something about pushing him down the stairs, your mom said, we got to get him to the doctor.
Yeah.
Like
we
with-
took him.
Like with today, she took her to the doctor to see the scrape on her back.
Yeah, I went with him.
Right, so and that's just on her back. When you have something in their head, you can't wait till tomorrow. That stuff's got to come pretty quick. And that's, talking about that with Rueben, go through that again. Brittany sees the bruise and you say something to Rueben about it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you said.
I just told him, I said, how'd that get there?
Right, and then what did he say?
He said, I don't know, I told you, this is what I was telling you about earlier, and I was like,
Didn't tell me.
yeah.